Securities offered through Peak Brokerage Services, LLC, member FINRA SIPC. Queen City Financial Group, LLC is not an affiliate of Peak Brokerage Services, LLC. Do you have questions about your financial future? Will you have enough money when you retire? How will I handle my obligations if something happens to me? Do I have enough or too much insurance? These are just some of the questions we will get the answers to from Charles Sperrazza as we try and piece together your financial puzzle on the Queen City Financial Show. I'm John DeSciullo. Welcome to the Queen City Financial Show. Charles Sperrazza is Western New York's go-to guy when it comes to questions about financial planning and everything that goes with it. A native of Queens, Charles has been in our area for decades after holding positions at major insurance companies and working in financial services as a general manager, marketing director, and brokerage manager. His responsibilities have included recruiting, training, and development, and day-to-day management of multiple locations. In 1997, he chose to return to what he loved most, and that's working one-on-one with people to help secure their financial security, which he does along with his team at Queen City Financial Group based in Williamsville. Welcome, Charles, to the show.
Hey, thank you for the introduction. That was pretty nice.
Yeah, there you go. You're a big star, Charles.
Yes.
Now, we've heard you on local radio,
Yes.
WCK and WBEN, and now you're here at WBBZ, and we're really happy to have you here on our program. I guess I want to start by asking the financial planning puzzle. When should you start, and how important is a plan?
Well, when you start as early as possible. If we went around the clock, you go through school, you say, I can't put money away, I'm just coming out of school. I have to pay my student loans, and then I get married, and then when I have kids, and we can take you right up to retirement. You never have time to put it away. And I think the earlier you start, the less you have to put away to get to the same goal. Somebody starts at 20 versus 30. 30, obviously, you have to put more, right? So it's helpful if you start early enough. If the government turned around and said to you tomorrow, look, we're taking an extra $20 out of your pay, are you going to quit the job? Probably not. So maybe that's where you start, $20 a week. Then as you get used to it and accustomed to it, as your income goes up, you continually increase that. That's how you build wealth.
You have an interesting line about a plan. What is that line?
Okay, people don't plan on failing, they fail to plan. And that's exactly what happens. Look, if you were putting up a building, could you just say, okay, let's just put the building up, we'll put a brick here, we'll put a pipe here? It's not going to work. You've got to have a plan and work the plan. Sometimes you have to adjust it. Sometimes income does change. But at the end of the day, you can't get to retirement and say, wow, I can't retire. Or look at the way I'm going to have to live. You did that to yourself. Go ahead.
Is there a certain age issue? Like, when I was younger, the last thing in the world I was thinking about was retirement. I knew, in the back of my mind it was going to happen, but you talk about planning early and making a plan. How do you impart that to younger people, or how do parents and grandparents and others who are watching, how can they impart that to their children?
It's not necessarily planning for retirement. It's just having a bucket of money that you put away for in the event of emergency. You lose your job. You're not going to go through your IRA or your 401k. You're going to have a little bucket. And that might be for some people 6 months of their living expenses. Some it might be a year. It's just the idea of getting in the habit, forming the habit of accumulating money. It doesn't mean, what if I want to retire at 50? Well, I have to have a plan. And that's essentially what we're saying. It's just necessarily, not retirement, but just having the habit of putting money away on a weekly basis is really what you want to do.
And this is what you do at Queen City Financial, and you can have a consultation with people and their families, one-on-one, on the phone. What is that consultation like? And I understand it's a free consultation.
It gives me the opportunity to talk to you as an individual, find out where do you want to be in a particular time in your life. What would you like to look at retirement? Where would you like to be in 10 years? And I get a feel for what you're trying to do. And then I'll ask you, well, what have you done to get to those goals? And that's where we run into the problem.
So if somebody comes in and they start making their plan, obviously plans change and things change as life goes on. People's career paths may take a different direction. the monies they make. I mean, look at what we just experienced with the pandemic recently. People experience things they never thought they would experience before. So the plan and the consultation is really the beginning of what I would define as a financial journey with you to keep on track.
Exactly. You see, you made a good point. The pandemic. Who could plan for that? But if you have zero plan, what is that going to do for you? Even though the government tried to help out by subsidizing, that's going to go away. Now what? Now we got to get back to reality. So if you had a plan, you may not have felt the pinch as somebody else may have. And that's the real purpose for having a plan. You can't plan for every emergency, but if you have something, it's something to go on.
Money is, and like health, is very personal to people. Some people may feel a little intimidated that maybe they don't have enough money to give you a call and say, you know, Charles, help us out. That shouldn't be the case, should it?
No. Look, I'm going to give you an example. Kentucky Fried Chicken. That guy started that business at 66 years old. So it's never too late. The more important thing, it doesn't matter whether you have $100 or $1 million or $20 million. You have to start somewhere, and I talk to everybody because I believe everybody should have the same opportunity with a lot of money or little money. Because your goal, remember this, somebody has $100,000, maybe it took them 20 years to get there. To them, that's $1 million, $2 million. It's their life savings.
Right.
They need to protect it as well.
Let's talk about when people come to see you. They may start when they're single, and then they marry, or they may come to you as a married couple, and sometimes that changes the dynamic of a marriage. Yes. may end. So explain how you work with people as their life continues to change and grow.
Let's start with the single person. So there they have the most disposable dollars, or at least should have it. So that's a great opportunity for them to start to put a bigger chunk away because they don't have any real responsibility other than to themselves. Now we move to second stage, they get married. Now we look at the couple, we look at their total income, and we figure out what disposable money they have now before children come. Because naturally, once children come, it reduces disposable income. Because now we have children to take care of as well. Having said that, I get a lot of them saying, well, I really can't afford to do anything now because my kids, it's cost. And then I look, there's 3 kids, there's 3 cell phones, there's 3 iPads. This stuff is not necessarily necessary. And you could take away a little bit of it and start the plan. So there's always room.
When you say plan, what is the plan? Is it investing in stocks and bonds? Is it putting money in certain accounts? I'm sure it's different for everybody based on what their needs are and based on what they have.
We call them buckets of money. So if I need a tax deduction, maybe I might use an IRA. So I'll put money there. And inside that IRA, it might be mutual funds. It might be an annuity. It might be stocks. It might be gold. It could be Bitcoin. I mean, it's whatever you're comfortable with. And we're going to go through a series of different investments based on your risk tolerance. That will help us to figure out where to take you.
Yeah, interesting you mentioned Bitcoin because you're the first financial advisor I've heard that has brought that up. Let's talk a little bit about that tolerance and that level of risk because I've heard of that where people have invested a lot of money. It's high, but you know, you hear that phrase high risk, high reward, and some people may want a more conservative route.
Sure.
So explain that.
So obviously the higher the risk, the better the reward, right? So Bitcoin has it's up and then it's down tenfold. So that money you put in Bitcoin is designed for money you could afford to lose, that it's not going to change your lifestyle.
Right.
Your mainstay is going to be the stuff that is probably more conservative. It could be moderate as well. But again, we give you a questionnaire to complete, and based how you answer that will help us to figure out what type of person you are. Are you a risk taker or not? Or somewhere in between. That helps us to formulate the plan.
Because with the risk, while there could be some high reward, there could also be a problem with that particular investment as time goes by, potentially, which is why the reward risk is there. Talk about some of those investment pieces. You mentioned IRA and some of the others.
So for people, I mean, there used to be pensions, and then a lot of companies took away all the pensions. So now it's up to you to become self-sufficient. And one of them is the IRA. You put it away yourself. Another one is the 401k. Some of the companies used to match a percentage of what you put in. Some still do, some don't. School teachers, maybe, they use a 403b. State workers may use deferred compensation. Anytime you can get money before tax into a program may be good, and then there's the bad side of that. If you did anything right in your life, when you go to retire, when you pull that money out, you could very well be in a higher tax bracket than when you took the deduction. So it's a double-edged sword, so you need to be careful about that.
Interesting you mentioned that. That was my next question about taxes and that sort of tax rate and that tax ratio, because while you may have something that's available to you at some point in your life, the IRS may be looking at it as well.
Right, and the IRS, they're going to be here long after we're gone. So they'll wait. They'll wait. They're okay with you putting the money in there, but sometimes we have to split it. You know, maybe we put some in the tax qualifier, which means it's pre-tax, and some we put somewhere else that we get to control when we want to take it, how we want to take it, can we take it tax-free? So there's another bucket by itself.
And what is the age, Charlie, where people can start dipping into some of those funds without being taxed? And,
so if it's a non-qualified, which means you didn't pay tax, you didn't take a tax deduction on the money you put in, and it has this thing called, it's a scary word for people, life insurance as the title. Inside there are accounts that you can put money in there, and that money actually grows there tax deferred, and then based on how you take it out, it can actually come out tax free as well.
This is interesting, and we know one of the things about talking to an expert like Charles Sperrazza and his team, they look at the total package. And you mentioned insurance, and we're going to, in the next segment, talk a little bit more about that. So this is why coming to an expert is very important, because you just went through a whole litany of things that, you know, as an average guy, I've sort of heard of, but I don't know enough about. But your team has the expertise at Queen City Financial.
Yeah. And that's the unique thing about this office. I only do two things. I do life insurance, and I do the bad word, investments. Those are the two things I do. Then if you're talking about Social Security, we have somebody that's certified that does Social Security. If you're talking about Medicare, we have somebody that's certified that does that piece of it. Property and casualty, they're all individual. I can't do it all.
So you have a team.
The whole team does it all.
We talked about IRA. Do you invest money in stocks, and how important is that?
That's an interesting word. People say, I manage money. I don't manage anything. If they tell you they're a money manager and they're talking to you as a client, they don't manage money. We have a team of people that manage the money, 175 years of experience. They don't talk to the public. They manage money. You can't manage money and talk to the public at the same time. Something's going to go astray.
So would a stock be a good investment for somebody?
Depends on the stock. Depends on your risk tolerance.
Yeah.
You know, I could tell you go buy Amazon, we'll say. If you were smart enough years back, it's worth a ton. But then there were plenty of others that are zero.
Yeah.
So our group looks at the management of that particular stock, the debt ratios, all these different tools that they use to figure out whether that's appropriate. And then it's also your risk tolerance, and then we marry the two together.
This conversation with Charles Sperrazza is great. We're going to continue it. But first, I want you to write this information down on how you can connect with Charles Sperrazza. He and his team are at Queen City Financial Group, 305 Spindrift Drive in Williamsville. You can give Charles a call at 1-800-499-PLAN and review the services offered on their website, which is queencityfg.com, queencityfg.com. We'll be right back to continue our conversation right after this. Charles Sperrazza, a financial professional from Queen City Financial Group, on the importance of financial planning.
You start early because you can put less away and gain great amounts over time. The longer you wait, the more you got to put away, and sometimes it becomes a situation where you can't put it away because you have other expenses. And that's where I come in. We're going to show you how to keep the money so that you can't outlive it.
Call Charles at the Queen City Financial Group, 1-800-499-PLAN. Welcome back to the Queen City Financial Show. If you have a question about your money, your financial future, how to navigate in these changing times, you want to meet Charles Sperrazza and his team, tell him that you saw us on television and wanted to get to know him, get his autograph maybe, and get a complete financial plan. Charles, we talked a little bit about some of those issues as you head into retirement. What is that minimum distribution that you can take when you reach a certain age? And I know you have a chart that kind of defines that.
Uncle Sam, the tax man, he says that at a particular age, and now it's age 72 and a half, you must make a withdrawal out of your IRA. It's not optional. So
What if you don't? What if you don't make that?
that's a bad thing. If you don't take the distribution, then let's just make a number up. Let's say you were supposed to take out $10,000 because that's what the chart says, and you don't do it. Then Uncle Sam fines you 50% of what you're supposed to take out.
So another reason why people should see you and your team to keep track of these things, because like most people, they know it's there, but they may not know some of those dates and deadlines and specific age requirements.
Absolutely. And the other thing is everybody thinks they should wait to 72 and a half to take the money, because then what? It's growing that much more, which means that much more you have to take out, which means a higher tax. So maybe I'm better off once I actually retire. Let's just say I retire at 65. At that point, I'm in my lowest tax bracket. Maybe that's the time I should start to withdraw from the 401k or the IRA, because I'm going to be in my lowest tax bracket. And they're not mandating what I have to take out. So let's bring you to 72 and you waited. At 72, there's a factor. And I want to show, let's give them a quick look. There's a chart, and I could send this out to you. If those that are interested, you can just call in. And it tells us year by year, starting at 72, what you have to take out based on what you have in your account. There's a mathematical equation. You take this number, and I'll just use 72, 25.8. You divide that into whatever you have in your IRA December 31st, the previous year, and that's what you have to take out the following year.
And when you take it out, you put it in a savings account, a checking account, and give it to somebody?
You take it out, you pay tax, number one, and then you either spend it.
So you have to pay tax on the money you take out?
Yes, you have to pay tax based on your tax bracket. Then you either put it into another investment, or you put it into a savings account, or you spend it.
And that's a mandate. That's a given.
You have to take the money.
Let's talk about as people get a little older and they get concerned about not only their own health and well-being and what they're going to do, but also maybe their parents or their loved ones. That's another piece of the Queen City financial puzzle that you're able to answer.
And now we're getting into estate planning. What do I want to happen to my estate, my money? Let's just say we have a nursing home issue. What happens there? How do we protect the money? So let me give a secret, and I hate to do it, but I'm going to do it anyway. One of the things that people aren't aware of is that Medicaid cannot come after your IRA. Cannot. They can only come after the dollars that you have to take out. They can't make you liquidate to pay for your care.
It's a very important piece. Say that again, Charles, because that's important.
So if you have an IRA, and I'm going to make up the check because I have a lot of them, that have $1 million in it, you could still qualify for Medicaid because they cannot force you to pay from your IRA, your care, until you get down to poverty level. They can only take what you're required to take.
Because as we've seen in many situations, people that have serious health issues on their own or a loved one can really wreak havoc on their financial situation.
Oh, we have software we put all of your information in it so you can see it all, what your retirement is, what your Social Security is, what your saving is, where you are, and then we plug in if we have a long-term care issue. What does it do to the whole portfolio? You could actually see it, and when it goes red, red means what? You're out of money, and it shows us that.
Right, and those things are so interesting because people, again, think they're, I'm going to live forever, and so they maybe don't put that part of the plan together, and that's a very important plan.
Especially today. People used to plan for age 75 because that was around the life expectancy. Now we're talking about into our mid-80s, and it's only going to keep getting longer. In fact, the fastest growing segment of the senior population is the 100-year-old. Imagine that.
Yeah. Well, I hope to live to be 100 at least.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody will watch me on TV at that age, but I hope to be around.
But you got a plan for that.
I'm going to try. Let's talk a little bit about other areas that Queen City Financial will help in, particularly as we move through the life cycle here in this conversation, wills and estates and putting health proxies together. All of that is something your group will work with an individual on.
Because we don't just do one item. Everything is tied together. Let's just talk about a will. If you don't have a will, you die what they call intestate. And now this becomes a headache because now it has to go to the courts, well, that's another thing. Then you also have a health proxy. I don't remember if you remember Will, I forget the girl's name, she was dying. And the family, part of them wanted to keep her on the machine, part said no.
You hear of those stories from time to time.
And now we got to go to court. Well, we got this problem, family problem, we got to go to court to deal with it. If you have a health proxy, the health proxy says this is what it is. A living will can say stuff, but once the word will is in there, any will can be contested. With a health proxy, it's very rare that you can change what the health proxy says.
Right.
So it's another part of the puzzle. The other thing is the portion where if power of attorney, if I don't have the power of attorney, and my son, let's say something happens to me, he doesn't have power of attorney, everything I have is frozen until we can resolve where it's supposed to go. So these are all the kinds of things we have to put all together, especially with people that did accumulate some wealth along the way.
And this is something at Queen City Financial Group, you will work with people, because you hear of agencies that specialize in Medicare and, and on all of the senior-based health issues, and that's fine with what they do, but you take that and add to it with everything else we just discussed.
Correct. And the reason why it's important is, yes, my Medicare is taken care of, but what about the rest of my stuff? We tie it all together so that when you could actually spend the day in our office, and by the time you leave, you've hit every department that we have that have specialists.
And let's talk about some of the specialists that you have, because just in looking at your website, and we're going to have all that information for you and put it up on the screen. You have obviously financial planning.
Yes.
How to handle the money.
Yes.
Insurance.
Yes.
And it's interesting because insurance takes on many different facets in how Queen City Financial Group works with personal and company, and how insurance, as you mentioned earlier, can work to be an investment piece.
Yes. So, simple stuff, your auto, your home. Why is that? What does that have to do with your financial plan? Just think about this. You're driving your car along, you're not paying attention, you're on the cell phone, you smash into somebody, they sue you for millions of dollars. What just happened to your estate, your plan?
Out the window.
It could be out the window, exactly. So having the right insurance in place is very important on your automobile. I'm a guy that visits people in their homes still. This is how long I'm doing this, 42 years. I go to your home. You have a piece of concrete that lifted up. I fall over it. I hit my head on, we'll call it a stoop, that's what I know in those days, or steps. Now, my lawyer gets a hold of it and says, now he's going to be out of work X, he makes X, and they come up with this ridiculous number that we have to sue you for, all because of that piece of concrete, and you were underinsured or not insured properly. That's how it ties into everything.
Right. We should mention, too, that people can go to your office and you will make personal visits, and it is interesting because some may say a little old school because of the technology, and you still use the technology, but as we said, it's an important personal connection that you're making with people. And what motivated you, Charlie, to be a financial advisor?
When you grow up as a poor kid and you start to look at why you were poor, because there was no plan. There was no plan, and then I watched siblings struggled, even to this day, because they refuse to put plans in place, because it's not going to happen to me. I've been doing this 42 years, and that is the main reason. I didn't want to be poor, and I want to help people. I make a living helping people. Can you imagine that? I make a living helping people make more than what they had in the first place.
Well, you have a passion for it, and you're from downstate, but you've been in Buffalo many years in Western New York. And what made you want to stay in Western New York?
Everybody says that, from all my family members, friends from downstate. Why do you want to stay up there for? This was the greatest place that this could have happened to me. What I do here, I could not do down there. And that's what kept me here. Aside from my wife here on top of it, she's got 11 brothers and sisters, mother and father still living. Where am I going? Let's take that to a further.
Happy wife, happy life,
yes.
Charles. Yeah.
But I still wouldn't go down that rat race. I mean, I'll just give you an example. In 1988, I bought a house down there. $235,000. 700 square feet, no garage. You sneeze, you're in the next door.
Right.
Okay? I came up here, and a guy was escorting me around, telling me here's where you could live, and I'm looking at the homes here. I said, I can't afford this, based on where I'm coming from.
Right.
He said, no, that one's about 150. So they right away lit me up. So when you look at it, just from a property value, it was going to be better. There's a lot more here.
Yeah.
And then I got to know the people. I got to move around. While more conservative here, for sure, in their thought process, they don't rush to decision. You learn to deal with it.
And that's one of the reasons that you've been successful, because you're working, and specifically working with everybody. You mentioned real estate. It's interesting because I would suspect some people use real estate as a way to build their financial future as well. And should they? Well,
it's two different things. Like here, the cost of real estate was less, so they had more disposable dollars. Downstate, because it was so high, their value is far greater, but they have no disposable dollars. So you got to flip-flop.
Yeah.
Now to access that, you you either do a second mortgage, not a second mortgage, you take a home equity to get the money out, or you do what they call, I lost my train of thought, but I'll come back to it. But they use these equities to take out, you don't pay it back until you die, and then the family can sell the house and pay the bank back. Reverse mortgage.
Yes. Heard of those.
That's more common downstate because the piece of property down there is $3 million, but they have no liquid money.
Real estate is hot, though, here in Western New York,
Yes.
that's for sure. Let's, in our few remaining moments, talk a little bit about Social Security. You know, do some people look at that and figure they're going to bank on that, or is that going to be enough?
Social Security was never designed to be enough. And the reason we know that is that's why the government put these plans out years ago, IRAs, 401ks, because they were trying to force us to become self-sufficient. Social Security is a good bucket to have, but it can't be your only bucket. You must have others for other income. Think about this. If you're making $50,000 a year, when you retire, you're going to not be making $50,000 a year. Is Social Security going to cover that $50,000 a year income? Probably not.
It's a supplement,
Yes.
but it's not all.
It's a fill-in, and the other part of it is, when do I take it? That's we have strategists. That's all they do. Figure out. They look at all the different ways you can take it. Starting at 62, should you wait? Should you hold on? Do it here. They walk you through all of the different programs.
Because that will change as your age. If you take it earlier, you don't get as much, and as you wait and hold on to it, and it depends on what you've made over the years.
And it depends on your health. If you wait, maybe you don't even get to collect it. You're not here. Or you're collecting it 1 or 2 years and you pass away.
Yeah.
Did I make up for not taking it early? That's what this is certified strategists. That's what they do, and you walk you through all the different scenarios.
So many questions, Charles, and so little time to answer all the questions. We hope that we were going to see you and all of your experts from Queen City Financial on subsequent programs.
We look forward to it.
Yeah, thank you for joining us here on the Queen City
Thanks for
Financial
having
Show.
me.
We're going to have all the information on where you can find Charles and his team, because if you need a plan, Charles and the Queen City Financial Group, they're going to make one for you and help you along the way. Thanks, Charles.
Thank you.
What a great conversation, and I'm sure you have more questions, so keep this information handy on how you can connect with Charles Sperrazza. He and his team are at the Queen City Financial Group, 305 Spindrift Drive in Williamsville, not far from anywhere. You can give Charles a call at 1-800-499-PLAN and review the services offered on their website, queencityfg.com. I'm John DeSciullo. Thanks for watching. Charles Sperrazza is a financial professional from Queen City Financial Group on the importance of trust with your financial planner.
You've got to give them things that they can look at that's not just coming from me. Statistics that are out there that are proven track records. It's not just what I say, it's what I show them. But we're here all the time. And why is it important? Because you're going to get the best information that's available the day you walk in the door.
Call Charles at the Queen City Financial Group, 1-800-499-PLAN.